Jeff Wiener's here to talk about this tragic morning here today.
Yeah, really horrible incident at Lake Mary High School. A 17-year-old student apparently took her own life in the auditorium building of the school. This was not in a classroom. It was not witnessed by any other students as far as we know so far. What seems to have happened is that this girl, near the end of first period, excused herself to go to the restroom. Then a gunshot was heard. Teachers reacted by putting the school into lockdown, called out on their radios to let everyone know, and it was discovered that this girl had taken her own life. School resource deputies, we were told, arrived very quickly, a nurse as well, but she could not be saved. So basically, the situation is over. Deputies are investigating, obviously, to find out where she got the gun, but there is no current threat to anyone at this school or any other schools that we're aware of. This seems to have just been a very tragic incident. I think we have some audio of Seminole County Sheriff Dennis Lima talking about the situation this morning.
No report of a threat to any other person, nothing like that. And again, we're investigating this thing, but this appears to be a self-inflicted suicide situation. It's hard to even say suicide. It's such a tragedy, but we have to talk about this stuff. A suicide, one person, one individual, and it appears that she went out of her way to do it in an area where nobody else was at.
So obviously it's a really sad situation. We've been talking to students who experienced real shock and fright from this, because obviously it went out as a code red, which, as far as they're told, they don't know that that's a suicide. They don't know if it's someone dangerous on campus. They just know they have to hide in their classroom. So there was that initial fear of students who didn't know what was going on. When they found out what was going on, obviously that starts kind of a grieving process. Students have been leaving the school. They are allowed to do that. They're basically being allowed to decide whether to stay or not. The school is back to normal, but from what we can tell, a great deal of students have left. There was a huge line of parents waiting to pick their kids up. There were a lot of kids who drove themselves who were also leaving. So yeah, really rough situation.
How was communication between parents and the school?
It seems like it was pretty good this time. Obviously, we've had issues in the past with some local schools. I think Lake Brantley was the one where there was a real scare because the parents weren't notified properly. In this instance, it seems like a message went out fairly quickly, informing parents. It didn't tell them that it had been a suicide. It told them that there was an isolated incident that had been resolved, that there was no current danger, but students were on a lockdown. The lockdown was lifted very quickly. Also, the lockdown we know was over by 8:30. We don't know exactly what time it ended, but that's still roughly an hour or less, basically, before that was done, and parents were allowed to start coming and getting their kids.
Yeah, hard day for parents, teachers, students, family.
Yeah,
we have comments here from the sheriff about the day too as well.
The number one step in fixing this is to have open dialogue and communication about it. I will go home tonight and talk to my boys. As difficult as it may be, I've got one son that's in high school, one still who's in elementary school. Sometimes as parents, we put this out of our mind and we shelter our kids away from this. I don't know that we can do that anymore. I think that we have to rely upon the professionals that educate and provide services to prevent this situation from happening again.
So obviously, as the sheriff said, it's important for parents to talk to their children. We're going to be talking to an expert with the University of Central Florida about how parents can go about doing that. That'll be in our story later today. But also, if you're in crisis or if you know anyone who is, call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. It's 1-800-273-TALK. You can also text the crisis text line by texting TALK to 741-741 at any time. If you know of anyone who's in crisis, if you yourself are in crisis, and if it's a really urgent situation, call law enforcement.
Watch Orlando's Sentinel Now live every weekday at noon on our Facebook page and on orlandosentinel.com.